The season may not have ended the way we wanted it to for the Patriots, but there's still lots to be proud of from this year. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boston Balling. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, currently the host of this show, as well as the Locked On Red Sox podcast, a daily Boston Red Sox show that is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. So if you want to hear my Red Sox talk, be sure to subscribe to that show on any podcast platform as well. But I am here on Boston Balling Monday through Thursday to discuss everything going on in the Boston sports world. And obviously, the season for the Patriots was a lot better than people were expecting. And it was one that was full of a lot of excitement and a lot to be excited about moving forward. I'm going to be diving into all of that on today's show. But just a reminder to continue to subscribe, follow, check out the show on any podcast platform. And I'll be here to talk about everything that's going on in the Boston sports scene. So make sure you continue to tune in. But while I'm definitely disappointed in the results in the Super Bowl, I can't possibly sit here and say that I'm not proud of the season that this team had. I think that would be doing a complete disservice to what they accomplished. And I think it would be, quite frankly, disrespectful to a team that grinded through the entirety of the season with lots of changes going into this season, including a new head coach at the helm and lots of moving parts and lots of young pieces on the roster. This was very much supposed to be a team that likely a lot of people thought wouldn't even sniff the playoffs this year, let alone go to the Super Bowl. So to sit here and say that they didn't deserve to be there or try to discredit what they've done this season is not fair, because it's really difficult to make it to the Super Bowl, no less win it. And I am just very proud of the way that this team grinded and the way that they were able to really solidify themselves as a team moving forward that should be put on notice in the AFC. And if they make the right moves this offseason, they definitely could be right there in the mix again. And I think what's eye-opening to me is how bright the future truly is. With Mike Vrabel at the helm, this team is going to find success. I mean, just won Coach of the Year this season for the way that he coached this team. And the way that these guys were able to get such valuable experience. Obviously, how Drake Maye performed in the Super Bowl and others on this team weren't exactly what we were hoping for. There's no taking away from the fact that they now have exposure to playing in a postseason environment. And the fact that they now have that experience, that is going to be so valuable for them moving forward, because now they have a taste of what it's like to play on the biggest stage. So now that they've been there, hopefully they can go back and be able to truly showcase what they can do at the highest level. So I have a lot of thoughts on this game. And obviously the Seahawks are the most complete team that the Patriots faced on this playoff run. Really strong defense, good offensive weapons to go along with Sam Darnold. I mean, I knew going into this game that this was not going to be easy if the Patriots were going to win it. I knew they had a chance. I knew if they played at their best, they had a chance, but I also was the first person to acknowledge, like, look, the offense has to be a lot better. And if they are going to win this game, they have no choice but to be better overall as an offensive unit. So I truly was hoping that that would be the case, but they went into this game, and similar to what we saw in the rest of the postseason, they struggled a lot offensively, and it ended up resulting in a 29-13 loss. And mistakes were a key factor. I mean, big fumble and big interception by Drake Maye that helped solidify the tone of this game. And I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I said, look, like, I think limiting mistakes is going to be a big factor in this game. Like, which team is going to be able to force more mistakes from the other team, and which team is going to limit those mistakes on their end more. And sure enough, that ended up being a factor. The Seahawks played a lot less messy of a game than the Patriots did, and ultimately it resulted in them winning. And look, like, all credit to Seattle. They're a great team, really had a good season. And Sam Darnold, I mean, can't emphasize enough how incredible of a comeback that was for him. to do what he's done throughout the course of his career and be able to go in and win the Super Bowl. I cannot stress enough how proud I am of him for being able to go out there and do that. I think that's just a really cool accomplishment to see a quarterback with everything he's been through go and do that. Obviously, incredibly disappointing that it happened at the expense of my team, but got to give credit where it's due. Seahawks battled. They played a better game. At the end of the day, that was what it was. And that's what it came down to. Patriots defense certainly did as much as they could, put as much pressure on they could as Seattle, but I will say their run defense was not good. They couldn't really figure out a way to stop the run. And as a result of that, Seattle was kind of cooking in that regard. I mean, Kenneth Walker had a huge game, much deservedly so, for him to win Super Bowl MVP. He just kept running the football because the Patriots could not find a solution for him. And that was one of the biggest things that held the defense back in this game. But when the Patriots really needed the defense to make plays to keep them in it, the defense more often than not was able to do that. On the flip side of that, you look at the offense and you look at what this performance was. And Drake Maye and company just did not perform. Like I mentioned, the interception, the fumble by Drake Maye, he definitely did not play his best game offensively. And I did worry about this. I had my concerns going into this game because throughout the course of the postseason, he wasn't playing at his very best on offense. And I do think him being as young as he is, the postseason stage maybe got to be a little bit too much for him. But again, now that I mentioned the experience, now that he's been there, done that, he has that exposure. But he was really broken up about it after the game. You could see in his post-game press conference how badly he wanted this. And he was just so torn up about it, but said he loves having Mike Vrabel as a coach. It's a pleasure playing with his teammates, and he's just hoping to get back there next year. And that's what you really can do. If you're the team leader, you can be sad about the results, but you can't continue to dwell on it. You have to look ahead and say, okay, how can we focus our attitudes to be able to say this can be us again next year, going back to the Super Bowl. And the AFC was wide open in 2025. And who's to say that it won't be wide open again this upcoming season? Now, on the flip side of that, you could say the AFC could get significantly better. I mean, they could end up making lots of moves to strengthen the entire conference, which is going to make it a lot more difficult for the Patriots to navigate. But the Patriots could also make moves to improve the team. Drake Maye, yes, while he wasn't at his best in the game last night, I also genuinely feel like he was getting a lot of unnecessary hate and people making it sound like he was the sole reason that the Patriots lost that game. And that is just not the case. Yes, he didn't play his best, but for people to rag on a 23-year-old quarterback who's in his second year in the NFL and somehow have this expectation that's different from other quarterbacks because he plays for the Patriots, that's also not really fair. And I really am not giving up on Drake Maye, and neither should you if you're a Patriots fan. I mean, he's shown a lot of good qualities and a lot of good aspects this season of his game that he can continue to improve on and continue to develop. If you think about it, now he has a whole offseason to be able to continue to improve and get better. And he and Mike Vrabel have established a sense of trust among each other. Shout out to the quarterbacks coach for the way he was able to really elevate Drake Maye's game overall throughout the course of this season. So there are lots of things that we can look back on from this year and say, yes, while the result was disappointing, we can look forward to continued development from Drake Maye. And this was a great learning experience for him being in the postseason and going to the Super Bowl and being able to really have that experience. So now you look at the full picture of everything and we think, okay, what went wrong? While Drake Maye wasn't at his best, he didn't also have a lot of time to throw the ball. The offensive line really did not do its job the way that it needed to protect Maye, and therefore him not having a lot of time to really develop a play is problematic and absolutely needs to be addressed this offseason. Will Campbell in particular, he struggled a lot throughout the course of this season, but it all really led up to arguably the worst game of his career on Sunday night. And we had seen the writing on the wall for him to continue to struggle, but I hoped that it would get a little bit better, and it just didn't. One thing to keep in mind about all of this, especially when it comes to Drake Maye, is he did have that lingering shoulder issue that a lot of the media was talking about over the course of last week. They were saying it's not a huge deal. He's going to play through it. But what if he was experiencing some pain that we didn't really know about? Because what if it was being downplayed a little bit more? That's definitely a factor in this, that maybe he just wasn't 100% physically for the game. And that does happen. It shouldn't be an excuse for why a team loses, but it should definitely be something to keep in mind of, rather than just automatically ragging on him, why don't we think about the fact that maybe he wasn't at 100%? But Will Campbell's performance in this game was something that added to what had become a trend, as opposed to just one bad performance. This was something that had kind of been built up, all culminating in the Super Bowl. He allowed a game-high 14 pressures on 53 dropbacks, leading to Maye being hurried on more than 26% of the Patriots' pass attempts. He only individually accounted for one of the offensive line's 6 sacks, but it was pressure off the left side that inevitably led to Maye being taken down multiple times, in addition to making all kinds of bad decisions with the football. So this performance from Campbell ultimately, like I said, capped off a postseason that saw him struggle mightily across the board, particularly against the Chargers and Texans, all in the lead up to this game. Pass blocking was basically a non-factor against the Broncos, so we could kind of give him a little bit of a pass there. But he was last year's 4th overall pick in the draft. And when he was asked to protect Maye's blind side against some of the best fronts in all of football, he continued time and time again to prove ineffective. Maye was essentially sacked a record 21 times this postseason, shattering the previous record holder, which was held by Joe Burrow in 2021, by 2 full sacks. And while we can argue, well, Drake Maye needs to get rid of the ball, the offensive line needs to do their job too. And they're also not doing their job to protect Maye. That is a very glaring weakness. For a player who's supposed to be the Patriots franchise left tackle, he really didn't do much in the way of tamping down his pre-draft doubters, because for months there were people concerned by his historically short wingspan. So the question becomes, what does this postseason mean for Will Campbell's career? I don't want to give up on him yet, but what I do think is the best solution would be to maybe consider moving his position altogether, move him inside and make him the Patriots' long-term answer at left guard, as opposed to keeping him in the left tackle spot. Does it make sense to pull the plug on his dream of being a left tackle after just one season, to have him learn a position that he's never played at any level of football? So this is a hard decision for the Patriots to make, because on one hand, you want to say, well, he wants to be a left tackle. That's what he's comfortable with. But on the same token, you need to do what's best for the Patriots as a team. And what's best for the Patriots might not be him being in that role. So if I were the Patriots, I'm making that decision ASAP. I'm deciding, okay, we're going to move him into the position of being a guard instead of being a tackle, so he can be more on the inside. And throughout the course of this offseason, he can focus on building himself up to be able to be more effective in that position, because that was a tough watch, was watching him there. And yes, with the rookies, it's always hard because you don't know how they're going to pan out. You don't know how they're going to look till they're actually in it. And for him, it feels like the Patriots got some answers on where they stand with him and where he should be playing moving forward. So because he couldn't handle it in any of these playoff games against teams that have really good defenses, That to me is 100% what is telling. His 29 pressures allowed this postseason were the most ever recorded in a single postseason. So it's concerning. He's definitely not a tackle anymore, in my opinion, but we'll see what the Patriots decide to do and how they want to manage that. But coming up, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a look ahead at the offseason and what the Patriots should do to improve the roster. Don't forget to subscribe to Boston Balling on any podcast platform. I am here Monday through Thursday discussing the latest in all things Boston sports. So if you want to be a part of that and not miss out on any of it, make sure that you're hitting that follow button. I will be talking some Bruins, some Red Sox, some Celtics, some Patriots. So if you want to be part of that, make sure that you are subscribing, liking, and following. So when we think about the Patriots and where they're at and what they accomplished this season, it's hard not to look back on this season and feel very happy and proud of what they accomplished. This was a team that proved so many people wrong, a team that nobody thought was going to go to the Super Bowl, the fans included, and a team that people genuinely did not believe in. And they proved a lot of people wrong and said, hey, we're here. You better pay attention to us. And with the right pieces this offseason, this team can elevate their game even further moving forward. So when it does come to the offseason and biggest needs, the priorities definitely need to center around protecting Drake Maye and just upgrading the offense as a whole. The primary needs include offensive tackle, assuming they move Will Campbell to left guard, an edge rusher, and wide receiver. Those are definitely the biggest areas of need that they need to address this offseason. So key targets include elite offensive linemen and also top tier edge defenders, which they definitely could use too, and also just reinforcing the offensive line depth alongside potential draft additions. That to me would be what would make the offseason complete for the Patriots. The offensive line definitely needs to be the biggest priority following that high sack count in the 2025 postseason. Potential targets include offensive tackle Braden Smith, offensive guard Wyatt Teller, and offensive guard / tackle Elijah Vera Tucker. They can definitely focus their draft efforts this year on acquiring some offensive linemen that can be reliable. And again, with Will Campbell, he was a rookie. He may just need some time, but I do think breaking the ice on moving him into a different position makes sense to do now as opposed to waiting and doing it later on. Wide receiver, the team definitely could use a premier weapon to bolster the passing game. And as good as Mac Hollins and Kayshon Boutte and Stephon Diggs and Kyle Williams were this season, they are not the same type of weapons that the most elite teams have in the NFL. I mean, if you look at the Rams and how far they got, the Patriots receiving core does not stack up at all, really, to a lot of those elite teams. So that's definitely an area of need that the Patriots need to address this offseason. Tight end, a young option for the future, is a need right now, too. As much as I really like Hunter Henry, you do need to start thinking about the future of that position. So they definitely could start to consider maybe adding somebody this offseason in that regard as well. Cornerback, because there's definitely depth needed behind Christian Gonzalez. And I love Gonzo. I think he is a superstar in the making. I think this guy is going to do really big things for this Patriots team. And I really like him, but can't hurt to acquire some depth there behind him. The defense overall was very strong this season, and that shouldn't be the priority, but definitely can't hurt to continue adding anyway. So the team is expected to be active in free agency because they do have significant cap space available going into this offseason. So they definitely need to use that to their advantage when it comes to the free agent market. And they can absolutely try to acquire game-changing pieces, and they can utilize the trade market as well to try to acquire game-changing pieces. Draft capital, too. The Patriots hold high-value picks to address their needs, including a top 5 selection in last year's draft that ended up obviously not panning out to be what they wanted it to be in terms of the players that they acquired, especially Will Campbell, and seeing what they saw in his first season. But when I go into this draft this year, they can utilize that draft wisely, utilize the picks that they have. And I'm not really necessarily trying to trade up into a higher pick if I'm the Patriots, because I don't know that I would be willing to pay the price for that. I almost would rather be able to stack up on the picks later on and hold on to those picks to be able to really enhance this offensive line. But it's always interesting to see what teams do when it comes to the draft. But these picks that they make are all going to be really high value, because this is going to be a really important draft for them and a really important offseason for them. So it's going to be really intriguing to kind of see how they go about this offseason, but the work starts right now to try and replicate a team that found a lot of success in 2025. They certainly have the salary cap to bring in big name free agents, but they definitely should also retain some of the talent that helped them along the way in 2025. So pending free agents include tight end Austin Hooper, linebacker Clavon Chasen, Curious Tonga, defensive tackle, Jalen Hawkins, safety, linebacker Jack Gibbons, Vidarian Lau, Yasir Durant, Alex Austin, Jacqueline Roy, Tommy DeVito, and Jack Westover. That's kind of the general list of pending free agents. Some of these guys are restricted free agents, others unrestricted free agents, but that is the general list of people who are going to be hitting free agency unless they decide they want to work out extensions with some of these guys. They're projected to have roughly $42.7 million in cap space, which ranks 11th in the NFL. It is notable that they have that much available because they definitely need to use that to their advantage. They should definitely prioritize retaining linebacker Clavon Chasen, who definitely revitalized his career this past season in New England. He recorded a career-high 7.5 sacks with 31 tackles and 2 forced fumbles over 16 games. Because of the fact that the defense was fantastic for most of the season, they should do their best to run it back and retain Tonga, Hawkins, and Gibbons as well to go along with that. Hooper remains a solid number 2 tight end, but like I said, the Patriots could look to move on from him and pursue a talented tight end in the draft just to make sure that they're looking out for the future as well. Top contract extension candidates include Christian Gonzalez, Kayshon Boutte, and Demario Douglas, all guys who have shown a lot of potential, and locking up Gonzo, who's definitely an elite cornerback, to an extension feels like a no-brainer. Boutte also made his case for an extension by becoming one of Drake Maye's favorite targets and making several highlight reel plays throughout the campaign, including a really crazy catch in the AFC Championship game. And Douglas is a solid role player, but he's less of a priority for the Patriots heading into this offseason when it comes to extensions. Now, when you think about free agency and how there could be guys who they could pursue going into this upcoming season, potential free agent fits could include wide receiver George Pickens, wide receiver Alec Pierce, wide receiver Rashid Shaheed, edge Trey Hendrickson, edge Malcolm Kuntz, tight end Isaiah Likely, and right tackle Braden Smith. Those are all guys who could be a fit for the Patriots this offseason. And because they have the cap space that they do, and because they went to the Super Bowl this season, this should be them having the mentality of, okay, we want to do what we can to compete in this upcoming season and try to get back to the big game. Because if you're a team that was on the bubble with making the playoffs in 2025, I would understand being a team that maybe is a little bit more hesitant about the moves that you do make. But this is a Patriots team that should be going all in because they have the cap space for it and because they showed what they can do and the fact that they were able to get to the Super Bowl. They definitely should add another weapon to Drake Maye's arsenal this offseason, regardless of who it is. Alec Pierce and George Pickens are the top wide receiver options, but they'll be pricey. So it's just a matter of, do they want to pay that price to bring in a guy like that. The pass rush also could use an upgrade. Hendrickson is the elite option there, but he's also going to be expensive. Kuntz is coming off of a solid but inconsistent season after re-signing a one-year, basically prove-it deal with the Raiders. Hunter Henry will remain the starting tight end, but Isaiah likely would be a solid complementary option if the Patriots don't select a tight end with a high draft pick. And obviously, like I mentioned, the offensive line being a top priority as well. After Drake Maye was sacked an NFL record 21 times during the playoffs, which is concerning. Besides Braden Smith, who's among the top tackle options set to hit the open market, it makes a lot of sense that they would acquire somebody anyway. He would be a good option, but there's always options. So this has to be a big offseason for the Patriots. They need to get Maye more weapons and more protection. Maye needs to also continue to be able to develop at a high level. He can't be afraid to use his arm. He can't be afraid to use his legs, because we have seen him be able to run and be mobile, and we've been able to see him hoist really long throws and hit one of his receivers downfield. So the Patriots need to be able to let him do that, not feel super restricted in terms of what he does when he's on the field. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do this offseason. This is a team that is in a very good spot. And yes, while it sucks to lose in the Super Bowl, it always is. We never like that feeling. We can look back on this season knowing, wow, they exceeded so many expectations this year by far, because there were so many people who didn't think they'd be a playoff team, let alone a Super Bowl team. I literally had them winning 9 games this year, definitely not 14. And I thought these things might take time. I thought, they would be an average team that maybe is on the bubble for getting into the playoffs, but definitely in a million years did not think they would win as many games as they did and go to the Super Bowl. So we can sit here and be proud of what this team did. We can be really excited about the future and the young talent that this team has, but also look forward to what they do this offseason to maximize this roster. I think from a system perspective, they have the right coaching staff in there. Now Drake Maye has 2 years under his belt. He's getting used to Mike Vrabel and his coaching style. And I think Drake could very much be set up to have a really strong year 3 if they give him some more weapons around him. So I'm really excited to see what they do. Overall, I thought the Seahawks, again, played a good game. I had high hopes for the Patriots, but this was a great learning experience for everybody. And while it wasn't necessarily enjoyable in the moment to watch the game, I still genuinely do feel like they needed this type of experience. They need to overcome and be able to experience that pain of losing in the Super Bowl, because it's only going to make everybody on this team hungrier going into next season. Obviously, nobody wants to lose. And when you lose in that big of a game, you, after the fact, think about it and say, wow, I don't want to experience that again. So hopefully they take this from that and they run with it, and they're able to continue to improve and hopefully get back to this spot next year. I really enjoyed watching this team as a whole this year, and I just am so blessed to be a Patriots fan. And we've seen a lot of championships in my day, and I feel so grateful for that. And hopefully they'll be back next year. I can't say enough about Mike Vrabel, very well-deserved Coach of the Year. The way that he instilled a very solid culture with this team is truly something that can't go unnoticed, because team culture is so much more important than people give it credit for. And it's those things that happen behind the scenes that you don't really see that makes for the best football team sometimes. And I truly do believe that a big reason why they were able to get to where they are is because of Mike Vrabel and that culture that he provided, and these guys feeling like a family and having that winning mentality and just wanting to go out there every week and give 100% and win football games. And again, while they came up short, I still feel like this was a really successful season for the Patriots, undoubtedly so, because nobody would have thought they would have been here. They defied a lot of odds. They showed us that the future is very bright, and I cannot wait to see how things continue to go. So we'll see how the offseason progresses and what they do. Hopefully they utilize that money that they have available to go out and get some key free agents to help this team for the 2026-2027 season and past that. But I appreciate everybody tuning in to Boston Balling on any podcast platform. I will be here continuously Monday through Thursday discussing all things Boston sports. Now we can look ahead to baseball season coming up, Celtics playing well, Bruins exceeding expectations. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But thank you so much as always for tuning in. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe. Let's go Patriots, and I'll catch you next time.